Welcome to Truth by Billy Bean Flash Update, and thanks for like, subscribe, and share. Today's date, January 8, time in Texas, about 11 a.m. Some of the things we'll cover: tankers, secret cargo. President Trump takes the U.S. out of UN Organizations Plus, and the U.S. appears to be prepping to hit Iran and Greenland. So let's get started. So we've got this going on. We have from CROSSROADS Joshua Phillips. It appears also that next the U.S. could also hit the cartels in Mexico, and President Trump currently is warning Mexico. And we have this from Fox News stating that at least 300,000 Americans over a year-to-year period have been killed by cartels via drugs into the U.S. And that's from Mexico, Latin America, and Canada. Canada, we understand, is also on President Trump's list to take down their cartel ties. And President Trump puts this forth: any country that wants to try and stop President Trump, the American people, the U.S. military, exposes the fact that they also must have cartel ties. So that's going on. And we have this. President Trump currently is negotiating, according to the Wall Street Journal, with Denmark to buy Greenland. And he also has on the table that if Denmark declines to negotiate with the U.S., and I believe President Trump wants to wrap this up now, imminently, that the U.S. could also take Greenland by U.S. military force. And we have that a statement coming out of NATO regarding President Trump's negotiations with Denmark, and also his, saying that the U.S. needs Greenland for U.S. strategic security, and that taking it by force is also on the table. NATO's statement says, if the U.S. invades Greenland, that will be the end of NATO. And I've got this to say: nothing would make the American people happier. We have this from Bloomberg and also Hal Turner, that President Trump has taken the U.S. out of 66 international and UN organizations, and has made a list and advised Secretary of State Marco Rubio to publish it in the Federal Register. This includes 31 UN organizations and 35 non-UN organizations, covering many things like climate, renewable energy, and also piracy and international law. So from Hal Turner, a list was given, and I'll just cover some highlights of the international organizations President Trump has taken us out of. In the UN, 31 total organizations, including economic groups, social affairs, Latin America, Caribbean, Asia, Pacific, international law, international criminal law, and international trade. Some non-UN organizations he's taken us out of: global counterterrorism, global migration, global mining and minerals, and global climate change. Some additional UN organizations President Trump has taken us out of include Peacekeeping and the Peacekeeping Fund. Also, organizations that deal with people of African descent, that would include Somalis. UN organizations that are involved with deforestation, UN Democracy Fund, UN Energy, UN Climate Change, UN Oceans, UN Population Fund, UN Water Organizations, and also non-UN organizations that are engaged in international development of law, energy, arts, culture, justice, and the rule of law. Also renewable energy, geography, and piracy. And science and technology organizations located in Ukraine, and an international organization involved with criminal tribunals. We know many Americans are looking forward to criminals inside the U.S. Being tried by the U.S. military tribunals. President Trump is currently withdrawing from international organizations, both UN and non-UN, that would govern such things as piracy, peacekeeping, also climate change. So way to go, President Trump. We have this from Times of India that the U.S. apparently plans to take Greenland now on President Trump's order. I believe taking Greenland is imminent, either paying for it or taking it by force. Congress had a hearing, and we had a statement by Anna Paulina Luna from Florida regarding the welfare Somali fraud investigations now going on in Minnesota and other states. And Anna Paulina Luna has heard enough. She believes that certain government criminals should be referred to the DOJ for criminal investigation. This includes the governor and Attorney General of Minnesota, and we know the governor is Tim Walz. So that's going on. We have this. Beston Taylor had some intel regarding secret cargo on the now 4 tankers the U.S. military have taken. And the intel states that on these tankers, they're not loaded with oil. Instead, they're loaded with high-tech equipment to be used in military operations. Some were supposed to go to Venezuela for Venezuela to use against the U.S., and some were supposed to go to Iran for Iran to use against Israel and the U.S. So, secret cargo on the tankers. They're not loaded with oil. From Breitbart. So, President Trump has a strategy to destroy our number one enemy, and that's China. First, take over Venezuela and their oil. No more oil to China. Then take over Iran and control their oil. No, because China came out and made a statement. Oh, if we can't get oil from Venezuela, we'll get it from Iran. Well, not for very long, because President Trump and the U.S. military are getting ready to also take control of Iran. President Trump's strategy, it appears, is to control the oil flow from Venezuela and Iran to take China down, beginning economically. So that's going on. And we have this. We have that, Australia yesterday was urging its citizens to leave Iran. And we have also Australia putting out do not travel to Iran warning to travelers, because in Iran there are violent protests. This will be the 8th or 9th day of continued protest. I put out yesterday that the Iranian citizens have now taken over a major city in western Iran, have overcome. If there isn't a military in the world, that would include the U.S. military. If the citizens of America, about 300 million, began to protest to change government, there wouldn't be a military or law enforcement force in the U.S. strong enough and large enough to fight back the citizens. The same thing is happening in Iran. I believe that, yes, the U.S. government has been aiding and abetting Iranian citizens, most likely very much support in the recent months, leading up to now this continued strong protest against the government in Iran to soften up Iran before the U.S. hits it militarily. And it's believed, according to the intel that Hal Turner has received, that the U.S. and Israel could hit Iran within the next 12 to 24 hours. So we have that going on. And yesterday, the Israeli government was advised by Netanyahu that President Trump had okayed Israel hitting Iran. And we have intel that riots inside Iran are cutting the government. So the government strong protests continue inside Iran. Yesterday, Iran was cutting internet to all citizens and only was allowing an internal Iranian intranet system to operate. In other words, cutting off Iranian citizens from being able to communicate to the outside world what's going on. And we have this. Yes, this came out late last night, that from Hal Turner's intel, the U.S. could hit Iran in the next 12 to 24 hours. And that the U.S. preps to hit Iran by a military force. And Israel is to take part in the military strike. Iran, meanwhile, is threatening to preemptively strike Israel with as many as 1,000 missiles. So it's good to be in prayer for America, President Trump, the U.S. military, and world peace. I love you, and I'll see you soon.